You ever get that feeling like, with so much of our lives happening online these days, shouldn't we have more control over our money in that digital space too? Like maybe there's a way to do it all with a little more privacy, a little more say in how things work.
Absolutely. It's a natural thought, especially as the lines between our physical and digital lives continue to blur.
Right. And that brings us to what we're diving into today, Bitcoin accounts.
Perfect timing, too, because it seems like everyone's talking about Bitcoin lately.
It can feel a little overwhelming though, right? All the
Yeah.
jargon, the tech stuff, it can be hard to know where to even begin. But that's exactly why we're here to demystify it.
We're going to break it down, make it relatable.
We've been digging into an article that lays out the basics, and our mission is to pull out the truly important bits for you.
Like how to open an account, what to watch out for, the whole 9 yards. We want you to walk away feeling informed, like you actually understand what this is all about.
And whether it might even be something you want to consider using yourself. So first things first, let's get that basic definition down. What actually is a Bitcoin account?
Well, think of it like a digital wallet, specifically for Bitcoin. It's that secure space where you can store it, send it, receive it, your hub for all things Bitcoin, essentially.
A digital wallet, okay? I can picture that. And what's interesting, the article mentioned even just starting small, like with 100 euros, could be enough to get people intrigued.
It's true. It's that initial step that often opens the door to a whole new way of thinking about money.
So we have our digital wallet, but the article also talked about different types of Bitcoin accounts. What are the main categories we should be aware of?
Yeah, there are a few distinct flavors, each with its own quirks and advantages. We've got online accounts, card-based accounts, and then there are the anonymous accounts, which always raise eyebrows.
Okay, let's unpack those. Let's start with the online Bitcoin accounts. What's the deal with those?
Those are probably the most common, especially for beginners. Basically, you sign up with an online platform, an exchange, and that becomes your gateway to the Bitcoin world.
So these platforms, are they all created equal?
Good question. The article stressed the importance of choosing a regulated platform, especially if you're planning to actively buy and sell Bitcoin. That added layer of oversight can make a huge difference in terms of security and peace of mind.
Regulated.
Yeah.
Got it. That makes sense. Now, the card-based Bitcoin accounts, those sound pretty cool. How do those work?
Those are all about convenience. It's like having a debit card linked directly to your Bitcoin wallet. You can use it for everyday purchases anywhere that accepts debit cards, online or in physical stores.
So you're basically bridging the gap between this digital currency and the real world.
Exactly. It makes Bitcoin much more tangible, more usable in our daily lives.
That's pretty revolutionary when you think about it. Now, the anonymous accounts, those definitely pique my curiosity. What makes them anonymous?
Well, the idea is you don't have to provide a ton of personal info up front, at least for basic use. It's all about that extra layer of privacy.
Sounds a little cloak and dagger almost.
Right. But here's the catch. The article pointed out that anonymous can be a bit of a misnomer. Many providers will still require some form of ID verification, especially for larger transactions or accessing more advanced features.
So it's not complete anonymity, but more like a degree of initial privacy.
Exactly. It's important to understand the nuances there.
For sure. Now, let's say someone's listening to this and thinking, okay, I'm intrigued, but how do I actually get started? How do I open one of these Bitcoin accounts the article mentioned?
The process is usually pretty straightforward. The first step is choosing your platform, your exchange. Do your research, see which one aligns with your needs and priorities.
Once you've picked your platform, then what?
Then it's the standard sign-up process. Your name, email address, create a secure password. Some platforms might ask for your address as well.
So, similar to creating an account for any online service.
Pretty much, yeah. Then, almost always, there's an email verification step. You'll get a link or a code to confirm your email address is legit. Once that's done, you're in. You can log into your shiny new Bitcoin account.
But, you mentioned earlier, even with those anonymous accounts, you'll likely need to verify your ID eventually.
Most likely, yeah. Especially if you plan to trade or make larger transactions, it's just part of the regulatory landscape these days.
Makes sense. So we've chosen a platform, created an account, verified our email, maybe done some ID verification. Now, how do we actually get some Bitcoin into this account? How do we fund it?
Well, you'll need to use one of the deposit methods offered by the platform. Usually there are quite a few options. Credit cards are common, as are bank transfers.
Good old-fashioned ways.
Right, and then there are often other online payment services available, depending on the platform. The article even mentioned that some brokers accept PayPal, which could be convenient for some folks.
So it's pretty flexible in terms of funding options. Now, the article kept mentioning this wallet thing. What exactly is that in the context of a Bitcoin account?
The wallet is where your Bitcoin actually lives. It's not a physical wallet, of course, but a digital one. And this is key. It holds your private keys, which are absolutely essential for accessing and spending your Bitcoin.
Private keys.
Okay, those sound important.
They are. Think of it like this. Your public address is like your bank account number, and your private key is like your PIN and signature all rolled into one. And there are different types of wallets, each with its own pros and cons when it comes to convenience and security.
Let's hear about those different types. What's the first one?
First, you've got online wallets, sometimes called web wallets. These are often integrated right into the exchange platforms. They're super convenient because you can access them from pretty much any device.
So that's great for accessibility, but what about security? That's the trade-off. Because your private keys are held online by a third party, they could potentially be vulnerable to hackers. So they're generally seen as a bit less secure than other options.
Ah, that classic dilemma, convenience versus security. What's the next type?
Next, we have desktop wallets. These are software programs you download and install on your computer. They're generally considered more secure because your private keys are stored locally on your machine, offline, away from prying eyes on the internet.
Makes sense. So you're taking control of your keys.
Exactly, but it's less convenient if you need to access your Bitcoin on the go, or if your computer crashes and you haven't backed up those keys properly.
Yikes, that sounds risky. Okay, what's the third type?
The third type is hardware wallets. These are physical devices like a little USB stick, specifically designed to store your private keys offline.
So maximum security.
Pretty much. They're considered the most secure because those keys are completely isolated from the internet, out of reach from hackers. To make a transaction, you physically connect the device and authorize it.
Wow, that's serious security. So you've got online wallets for convenience, desktop wallets for a step up in security, and then hardware wallets for Fort Knox level protection.
You got it. The best choice really depends on your individual needs and how much Bitcoin you're dealing with.
Now, speaking of security, the article really hammered home how important it is to protect your digital assets.
Yeah.
What are the absolute must-dos when it comes to Bitcoin security?
Yeah, this can't be emphasized enough. Once you have a Bitcoin account, security is paramount. The article has some really good advice. First and foremost, use strong, unique passwords for everything.
That's Security 101, right?
Absolutely. Don't use the same password you use for other accounts and make it something truly complex, something hard to guess.
So no password 1, 2, 3 then?
Definitely not. Then, and this is huge, enable two-factor authentication, or 2FA. This adds a second layer of security on top of your password. It usually involves a code sent to your phone or generated by an app that you need to enter to log in or make a transaction.
So even if someone gets their hands on your password, they still can't get in without that second factor.
Exactly. It's a massive deterrent. And finally, back up your private keys. This is crucial. Write them down, store them on an encrypted USB drive, whatever method you choose. Just make sure you have a secure offline backup.
Because if you lose those keys, it's game over.
Pretty much. There's no forgot password reset in the world of Bitcoin. Those keys are your lifeline to your funds. Lose them, and you've lost your Bitcoin.
Wow, that really puts it into perspective. Okay, let's talk about costs. Are there any fees associated with Bitcoin accounts that people should know about?
Yeah, it's important to be aware of the fees involved. The article cautioned that some platforms might advertise really low initial fees to lure you in, but then there might be hidden charges down the line.
Sneaky. What kind of fees are we talking about?
Well, there could be transaction fees when you buy or sell on the exchange, withdrawal fees when you want to move your Bitcoin out of the platform, and then there are network fees, which are part of the Bitcoin network itself, and those can fluctuate depending on how congested the network is.
So read the fine print, basically. Don't just go for the lowest advertised fee without understanding the full picture.
Exactly.
Wow.
Know what you're getting into before you commit.
The article also mentioned something called the Lightning Network. What's that all about?
That's a really cool development. The Lightning Network is basically a layer built on top of the main Bitcoin blockchain. It's designed to make Bitcoin payments faster and cheaper, especially for smaller, more frequent transactions.
So for everyday use, the Lightning Network could be a game changer.
Potentially, yeah. It bypasses some of the congestion and higher fees that can come with regular Bitcoin transactions.
That's good to hear. Now let's shift gears a bit. Why might you, our listener, actually want to consider a Bitcoin account? What are the potential advantages that the article highlighted?
There are several. The one that often gets people excited is the enhanced privacy aspect. Though, as we discussed, it's not always complete anonymity, but it can offer more control over your financial data.
That appeals to a lot of people these days.
It does. Then there's the speed and convenience of transactions, especially for international payments. Bitcoin can be much faster and cheaper than traditional methods, and the article pointed out that receiving Bitcoin often doesn't incur transaction fees.
That's a big plus.
And finally, you're tapping into a global, decentralized digital currency, which can be a powerful thing in today's interconnected world.
So, greater privacy, fast and convenient transactions, usually no fees for receiving, and access to a global currency. Those are some serious potential upsides. But let's be realistic, there are downsides too, right?
Absolutely. The article was clear about that. The big one is the price volatility. Bitcoin's value can swing wildly, so there's a real risk of losing money if the price drops.
That's a gamble some people might not be comfortable with.
Right. Then there's always the risk of hacking. If your account or wallet gets compromised, you could lose your Bitcoin. And finally, the regulatory landscape is still evolving, so there's some uncertainty about future restrictions or legal issues that could arise.
So price swings, security risks, and regulatory uncertainty. It's a mixed bag for sure.
It is. It's important to weigh both the potential benefits and risks before diving in.
To wrap things up, what are the absolute key takeaways when it comes to managing a Bitcoin account securely?
The article stressed a few crucial points. First, always use strong two-factor authentication. That's non-negotiable.
Lock it down tight.
Right. Keep your passwords safe and secret, obviously. And finally, monitor your account activity regularly. Be on the lookout for any suspicious transactions.
So 2FA, password hygiene, and keeping a watchful eye on your account. Those are the golden rules.
Exactly. Proactive security is the best way to protect your Bitcoin.
Well, this has been a deep dive and a half. We've covered a lot of ground, from the basics of what a Bitcoin account is to the different types, security measures, costs, and the potential advantages and disadvantages.
We really tried to unpack it all based on the insights from the article. Hopefully it's a little less mysterious now.
So as you think about the future of money, the rise of digital currencies, and all the possibilities that come with it, what questions has this deep dive sparked for you? What further explorations do you feel compelled to take? It's a fascinating world out there, and we're just scratching the surface.